Hi, Josh. I'm going to read you some stories, okay? The first one is The Angry Moon, about the little boy Lupin and his friend Lapawinsa. Lupin and Lapawinsa were friends. Always they were together. They spent their days making arrows out of feathers and birch shoots and walking in the country surrounding their village. One night they were walking in a large grassy field. The moon was full and very bright and almost seemed to be watching them. "Look at the moon," said Lapawinsa, laughing. "How ugly it looks with those funny marks all over its face." "Hush," whispered Lupin. "You mustn't say things like that about the moon." No sooner had he spoken than a huge shadow swept over the field. A strange shimmering rainbow appeared out of the shadow and settled around Lapawinsa, bathing her in a pale flickering glow. She cried out in fear. Lupin stepped towards her and the rainbow suddenly vanished. The shadow fell away, and Lupin was standing alone in the moonlight. Over and over again he called to Lapawinsa, but she was nowhere to be seen. He ran to the top of a little hill in the center of the field, from which he could see all around. The field was empty. "The moon has taken her," he thought, and he sat down on the hill and wept. When he had no more tears, he looked up at the sky and saw a very large, bright star right beside the moon. A strange idea came into his mind. "Perhaps I can hit that star," he said to himself. He took out his bow and arrow and, aiming very carefully, shot at the star. In a moment the star disappeared and the arrow did not return. Encouraged, he pulled another arrow out of his quiver, for it was packed with all the arrows he and Lapawinsa had made together, and shot it at the same direction. Over and over again, arrow after arrow, he shot at the place where the star had been. None of them fell to the ground. When almost all the arrows were gone, he saw something hanging from the sky, very close to him. It was a chain made of all the arrows he had shot, each one fastened to the other. He shot a few more until the chain almost reached the ground. Just as he shot his last arrow, the sun began to rise, for it had taken him all night to shoot so many arrows. As the first rays of the sun touched the chain of arrows, it became a ladder leading up to the sky. For a moment, Lupin was stunned with fear and amazement, but he did not hesitate for long. Without knowing why, he picked a few branches from some nearby bushes and stuck them into his hair, and then he stepped onto the ladder. Up and up he climbed, higher and higher, not daring to stop, not daring to look down. Powerful winds shook the ladder violently, making it swing back and forth in a wide, whistling arc. But he hung on. Driving rains came and beat down on him, making the ladder whip and wet and slippery. But his grip was strong and he did not fall. Night came and he wrapped himself about the ladder and slept. The sunlight that woke Lupin the next morning was the brightest he had ever seen. He was stiff and hungry, and his head felt strangely heavy. He put his hands up to find that the branches in his hair had grown to bushes full of big red and blue berries. Again, he wondered what had made him put the branches in his hair the day before. He ate the berries, for he was very hungry, and dropped the empty branches down to the earth. On he climbed, through heavy black clouds and then white mists, until all the clouds were far below. Too exhausted to notice what was around him, he lay down and fell asleep. In his sleep he heard a voice saying to him, "Wake up, I am coming for you." He opened his eyes, but could see no one. He closed his eyes again and soon heard the same voice saying, "Wake up, I am here." He jumped to his feet and saw a little boy beside him. "I have come to take you to my grandmother," said the stranger. "She has been watching you climb here from the earth." And so Lupin followed the little boy through the sky country until they came to the grandmother's house. The old woman welcomed them, and the three of them sat down around the fire. "It is I who helped you on your way to this country," said the grandmother. "I could tell that you were brave and had great need to come up into the sky." "I have come to find Lapalisa," Lupin said. "Yes, I know," said the old woman. "She has been captured by the moon, whose house is very near here. We can hear her cry." They listened, and Lupin heard Lapalisa's voice wailing as if she were in pain. "I must go to her," he cried, jumping up, but the old woman pulled him back. "Wait," she said. "First you must have food, for you are weak from hunger." She raised her hand to her mouth, and a roasted fish appeared in it. She raised it again, and there was a toasted ear of corn. A third time she raised her hand, and it was laden with fresh fruit. Lupin ate hungrily, and soon felt strong and refreshed. "Now," said the grandmother, "when you go to the house of the moon, you must take 4 things." She handed him a pine cone, a fish-eye, a rose, and a small piece of stone. Then she and the boy wished him good luck and stood at the door of their house as Lupin hurried away into the land of the moon. The closer Lupin got to the house of the moon, the louder Lapalisa's cries became, and he began to run. Something was sticking out of the smoke hole, that's the chimney. As he came closer, he saw that it was Lapalisa's head, and realized with horror that she was caught there and was being scorched by the fire. He climbed up onto the roof and ran over to her, stepping softly so that the moon could not hear his footsteps. Lapalisa was so overjoyed to see him that she stopped crying. "Don't stop crying," he whispered. "The moon mustn't know I am taking you away." So on she cried as Lupin pulled her out of the smoke hole. He pushed the pine cone into her place, and it began to wail just as she had done. Then, hand in hand, they jumped from the roof and started to run. Soon the pine cone withered from the heat. It stopped wailing and fell into the fire. The moon realized that he had been tricked and flew into a violent rage. Thundering from the house, he rolled after Lupin and Lapalisa much faster than they could run. Just as the moon was about to overtake them, Lupin threw the fish-eye behind him, and where it fell a large lake appeared. The moon could not stop in time and slid into the water, sending up huge sheets of spray. Cold and wet, he pulled himself out and had to roll all the way around the lake, so that he was far behind. The moon traveled so quickly that soon he was right at their heels, and Lupin tossed the rose behind him. Suddenly the moon was caught in a thicket of tangled roses. Struggling and scratching himself on the thorns, he fought his way through. When he finally dragged himself out, he was mad with fury. The whole sky shook with his rage, and he rolled even faster. When they could feel his cold breath upon their necks, Lupin tossed the little stone behind, and there was a gigantic mountain. So steep it was that the moon could not climb it, but kept rolling helplessly up and down again and again. Lupin and Lapalisa reached the grandmother's house, tired and breathless, but laughing with relief. The old woman and the child welcomed them and took them inside to rest. They thanked the grandmother for all the help she had given them, but as soon as they were rested, they longed to be back on the earth. "Your ladder is still there," the grandmother said. "You may return to the earth whenever you wish." They were so eager to get home that they did not stop to rest. Just as the sun was about to set, they reached the earth. As the sun's last rays touched the ladder, it became once more a chain of arrows, and clattered to the ground in a heap. The two children happily packed them back into the quiver. Then Lupin and Lapowitz ran into the village, where they were greeted with cries of joy. They led long and happy lives, and people came from miles around to hear their story. It was passed down from one generation to another, and is remembered to this day. The next story I'm going to read, Joshua, is The Patchwork Cat. Good morning, good yawning, says Tabby, getting up. She stretches. Tabby sleeps on a quilt. It is patchwork, like herself. She loves it. She loves her breakfast, too. She waits for it. She says good morning and good yawning to the people who live in her house. They are a mother and a father and 2 children. They all watch for the milkman. Tabby's tail begins to twitch. They hear his trunk. They hear him sing. Tabby goes out and greets the milkman. She loves him too. Oh, milkman, milkman, she says, you can come and live in my house anytime. After breakfast, Tabby goes to have another little rest, but she cannot find the patchwork quilt, her matching patchwork quilt. Ah, says the mother, we have done some snatch work on your patchwork. We have thrown it out because it is so very dirty, and we shall buy a basket. Tabby does not want a basket. She will do some angry scratch work on it if it comes. Tabby licks herself and thinks, I should send this family away and let the milkman stay with me. She goes to look for her patchwork quilt, to wash herself and stretch and sleep. She finds it in the garbage can. She reaches up and touches it. She climbs in and under the lid with it and goes to sleep. Then bang and crash and black and thick the dark. The can is in the air and upside down. Tabby falls out, wrapped in her patchwork quilt. She is in the garbage truck. She cries out, but no one is there to hear. The engines and the shaking and the quaking drown her calls. She is going on a journey. She is scared. She hisses and she arches up her back, but no one is there to see. The journey ends. The truck lifts up its back and hisses. It tips out Tabby and her patchwork quilt. Thump! She is in a strange and dreadful place. There is nothing good to see and nothing good to smell. There is garbage all around her. Here comes another truck. She must dash to safety. Whoosh! Another load of garbage, and then another, and another, and another, until the day is over. The last truck goes. The driver locks the gate. Tabby is in the dump and cannot get out. Oh, I am miserable, she says. Darkness comes. Rats wake up. They gnash their teeth at her and flash their eyes. They watch her and they frighten her. She guards her patchwork quilt all night and growls and screams. At dawn, the rats go home. The gates are opened once again. The trucks begin to bring the garbage in. Tabby drags her patchwork quilt up to the gate. She waits until a truck has left. Then, with her quilt, she follows down the road. She hopes the truck will not come by and crush the patchwork quilt or crunch her bones. She crawls along the ditch. She holds a corner of the patchwork in her mouth. She will not let it go. At last she comes to streets and houses, but she is far from home and does not know how long she'll have to trudge. She will not go without the patchwork quilt. Her teeth begin to ache. She goes along a street and does not know the way. Each turning might be wrong. She hopes she does not meet a dog. Then she hears a sound she knows, a voice she loves, and a rich voice singing a morning song. Her tail begins to twitch. The milkman in his truck is there. Good morning, says the milkman. Here's Tabby far from home and lost. Poor Tabby, come up with me. I'll take you home, and your patchwork quilt too. Tabby sits beside him on her patchwork quilt and licks herself. The milkman pours fresh milk to drink. At home, the mother and the father and the children are very pleased to see that she is found. Tabby thinks that they can stay if the milkman will promise to come each morning. The mother says that she must wash the patchwork quilt to make it fresh, and mend it with a stitch or two to make it good as new. Tabby says, "I'll be tired soon, so wash it now." When the patchwork quilt is clean, Tabby sleeps till noon, then wakes and says, "Good morning," good yawning, and has a great big stretch. She makes sure that she is home, and then goes to sleep again all afternoon. How about a little stone soup, Joshua? A young man was walking. He walked and he walked. He walked all night and he walked all day. He knocked on the door. A little old lady opened it. "Good lady," said the young man, "I am very hungry. Can you give me something to eat?" "I have nothing to give you," said the little old lady. "I have nothing in the house. I have nothing in the garden." And she began to close the door. "Stop," said the young man. "If you will not give me something to eat, will you at least give me a stone?" "A stone," said the little old lady. "What will you do with a stone? You cannot eat a stone." "Ah," said the young man, "I can make soup from a stone." Now the little old lady had never heard of that. Make soup from a stone? Fancy that. "There are stones in the road," said the little old lady. The young man picked up a round gray stone. "This stone will make wonderful soup," he said. "Now get me a pot." The little old lady got a pot. "Fill the pot with water and put it on the fire," the young man said. The little old lady did as she was told, and soon the water was bubbling in the pot. The young man put the round gray stone into the pot. "Now we shall wait for the stone to cook into soup," he said. The pot bubbled and bubbled, and after a while the little old lady said, "The soup is cooking very fast." "It is cooking fast now," said the hungry young man, "but it would cook faster with some onions." So the little old lady went to the garden to get some yellow onions. Into the pot went the yellow onions with the round gray stone. "Soup from a stone," said the little old lady. Fancy that. The pot bubbled and bubbled, and after a while the little old lady said, "This soup smells good." "It smells good now," said the hungry young man, "but it would smell better with some carrots." So the little old lady went out to the garden and pulled up all the carrots she could carry. Into the pot went the long, thin carrots with the yellow onions and the round gray stone. "Soup from a stone," said the little old lady. Fancy that. The pot bubbled and bubbled, and after a while the little old lady said, "This soup looks good." "It looks good now," said the hungry young man, "but it would look even better if you threw in a chicken or two." So the little old lady went to the chicken house to get 2 fat chickens. Into the pot went the 2 fat chickens with the long, thin carrots and the yellow onions and the round gray stone. "Soup from a stone," said the little old lady. Fancy that. The pot bubbled and bubbled, and after a while the little old lady said, "This soup tastes good." "It tastes good now," said the hungry young man, "but it would taste even better with beef bones." So the little old lady went to get some juicy beef bones. Into the pot went the juicy beef bones with the 2 fat chickens and the long, thin carrots and the yellow onions and the round gray stone. "Soup from a stone," said the little old lady. Fancy that. The pot bubbled, and after a while the little old lady said, "This soup is fit for a prince." "It is fit for a prince now," said the hungry young man, "but it would be fit for a king with a bit of pepper and a handful of salt." So the little old lady got the pepper and the salt, and into the pot went the bit of pepper and the handful of salt with the juicy beef bones and the 2 fat chickens and the long, thin carrots and the yellow onions and the round gray stone. "Soup from a stone," said the little old lady. Fancy that. The pot bubbled, and after a while the little old lady said, "This soup is too thin." "It is thin now," said the hungry young man, "but it would be nice and thick with some butter and some barley." So the little old lady went to get butter and barley, and into the pot Want the butter and the barley with the bit of pepper and the handful of salt and the juicy beef bones and the 2 fat chickens and the long thin carrots and the yellow onions and the round gray stone. Soup from a stone, said the little old lady. Fancy that. The pot bubbled, and after a while the little old lady tasted the soup again. This is good soup, she said. Yes, said the hungry young man. This soup is fit for a king. Now we shall eat it. Stop, said the little old lady. This soup is indeed fit for a king. Now I will set a table fit for a king. So she took out her best tablecloth and her best dishes, and then the hungry old lady and the hungry young man ate all the soup. The soup made with the butter and the barley and the bit of pepper and the handful of salt and the juicy beef bones and the 2 fat chickens and the long thin carrots and the yellow onions and the round gray stone. Soup from a stone, said the little old lady. Fancy that. Now I must be on my way, said the young man. He took the stone out of the pot and put it into his pocket. Why are you taking the stone? Said the little old lady. Well, said the young man, the stone is not cooked enough. I will have to cook it some more tomorrow. And the young man said goodbye. He walked on down the road. He walked and he walked. What a fine supper I shall have tomorrow, he said to himself. Soup from a stone. Fancy that. Now that we've had some stone soup, now we can have a little gingerbread boy. Once upon a time, there lived a little old woman and a little old man. They had no boys or girls of their own, so they lived all by themselves in a little old house. One day the little old woman was baking gingerbread. I shall make a little gingerbread boy, she said. So she rolled the dough out flat and cut it in the shape of a little boy. She made him 2 good-sized feet. Then she gave him eyes and a mouth of raisins and currants, and stuck on a cinnamon drop for a nose. She put a row of raisins down the front of his jacket for buttons. There, she said, now we'll have a little gingerbread boy of our own. She put him on the pan, popped him into the oven, and closed the door. Then she went about her work, sweeping and cleaning and sweeping, and she forgot all about the little gingerbread boy. Meanwhile, he baked brown all over and got very hot. Oh my, said the little old woman at last, sniffing the air. The gingerbread boy is burning. She ran to the oven and opened the door. Up jumped the gingerbread boy. He hopped down onto the floor, ran across the kitchen, out of the door, across the garden, through the gate, and down the road as fast as his gingerbread legs could carry him. The little old woman and the little old man ran after him, shouting, Stop, stop, little gingerbread boy. The gingerbread boy looked back and laughed and called out, Run, 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 catch me if you can. You can't catch me, I'm the gingerbread boy. I am, I am, I am. And they couldn't catch him. So the gingerbread boy ran on and on. Soon he came to a cow. Sniffed the cow. You smell good. Stop, little gingerbread boy. I would like to eat you. But the little gingerbread boy laughed and said, I've run away from a little old woman. I've run away from a little old man. And I can run away from you. I can, I can. So the cow ran after him, but she couldn't catch him. The little gingerbread boy ran on and on. Soon he came to a horse. Please stop, little gingerbread boy, said the horse. You look very good to eat. But the little gingerbread boy called out, I've run away from a little old man. I've run away from a little old woman. I've run away from a cow, and I can run away from you. I can, I can. So the horse ran after him, but he couldn't catch him. By and by, the little gingerbread boy came to a barn where some men were thrashing wheat. The thrashers saw the little gingerbread boy and called, Do not run so fast, little gingerbread boy. Gingerbread boys are made to eat. But the little gingerbread boy ran faster and faster and shouted, I've run away from a little old woman. I've run away from a little old man. I've run away from a cow. I've run away from a horse. And I can run away from you. I can, I can. So the threshers ran after him, but they couldn't catch him. The little gingerbread boy ran faster than ever, and faster and faster. Soon he came to a field full of mowers. A mower is a person who is mowing the grass. When the mowers saw how fine he looked, they called, wait a bit, little gingerbread boy. Gingerbread boys are made to eat." But the gingerbread boy laughed harder than ever, and he ran on like the wind. "Oh ho, oh ho," he cried. "I've run away from a little old woman, I've run away from a little old man. I've run away from a cow, I've run away from a horse. I've run away from a barn full of threshers, and I can run away from you. I can, I can." So the mowers ran after him, but they couldn't catch him. By this time the little gingerbread boy was very proud of himself. He strutted and he danced and he pranced. He thought no one on earth could catch him. Then he saw a fox coming across the field. The fox looked at him and began to run. But the little gingerbread boy ran faster still and shouted, "Run, run, run! Catch me if you can! You can't catch me! I'm the gingerbread boy! I am, I am! I've run away from a little old woman, I've run away from a little old man, I've run away from a cow, I've run away from a horse, I've run away from a barn full of threshers, I've run away from a field full of mowers, and I can run away from you, I can, I can." "Why," said the fox politely, "I wouldn't catch you if I could." Just then the little gingerbread boy came to a wide river. He dared not jump into the water, for if he jumped into the water, he would crumble to pieces. He looked behind him. The cow, the horse, and all the people were still following and getting closer. He had to cross the river, and they would catch him. The fox saw this and said, "Jump onto my tail, and I shall take you across." So the little gingerbread boy jumped onto the fox's tail, and the fox jumped into the river. When they were out in the river, the fox said, "Little gingerbread boy, I think you had better get onto my back, or you may fall off." So the little gingerbread boy jumped onto the fox's back. After swimming a little farther, the fox said, "The water is very deep. You may get wet where you are. Jump on my shoulder." So the little gingerbread boy jumped onto the fox's shoulder. But when they were near the other side of the river, the fox cried out suddenly, "The water grows deeper still. Jump up on my nose, jump up on my nose." So the little gingerbread boy jumped up onto the fox's nose. The fox sprang ashore and threw back his head, and snip, half the gingerbread boy was gone. Snip, snap, he was 3/4 gone. Snip, snap, snip. At last, he went the way of every single gingerbread boy that ever came out of an oven. He was all gone. So the little old woman and the little old man, and the cow and the horse, and the threshers and the mowers all went home again. While the fox had a good long nap. Now I had but 50 cents. I took my girl to a fancy ball. It was a social hop. We waited till the folks got out, and the music it did stop. Then to a restaurant we went, the best one on the street. She said she wasn't hungry, but this is what she ate: a dozen raw, a plate of slaw, a chicken and a roast, some applesauce and asparagus, and soft shell crabs on toast, a big box stew and crackers too. Her appetite was immense. When she called for pie, I thought I'd die, for I had but 50 cents. She said she wasn't hungry and didn't care to eat, but I've got money in my clothes to bet she can't be beat. She took it in so cozy, she had an awful tank. She said she wasn't thirsty, but this is what she drank: a whiskey skin, a glass of gin, which made me shake with fear, a ginger pop with rum on top, a schooner then of beer, a glass of ale, a gin cocktail. She should have had more sense. When she called for more, I fell on the floor, for I had but 50 cents. Of course I wasn't hungry and didn't care to eat, expecting every moment to be kicked into the street. She said she'd fetch her family round, and some night we'd have fun. When I gave the man the 50 cents, this is what he done. He tore my clothes, he smashed my nose, he hit me in the jaw, he gave me a prize of a pair of black eyes, and with me swept the floor. He took me where my pants hung loose and threw me over the fence. Take my advice, don't try it twice if you've got but 50 cents. Blessings on thee, little man, barefoot boy with cheek of tan, with thy turned-up pantaloons and thy merry whistled tunes, with thy red lip redder still, kissed by strawberries on the hill, with the sunshine on thy face, through thy torn brim's jaunty grace. From my heart I give thee joy. I was once a barefoot boy. Prince thou art, the grown-up man only is Republican. Let the $1,000,000 putting at his side, thou hast more than he can buy in the reach of ear and eye. Outward sunshine, inward joy, blessings on thee, barefoot boy. Oh, for boyhood's time of June, crowding years in one brief moon, when all things I heard or saw, me their master waited for. I was rich in flowers and trees, hummingbirds and honeybees. For my sport the squirrel played, plied the snouted mole his spade. For my task the blackberry cone purpled over hedge and stone. Laughed the brook for my delight, through the day and through the night. Whispering at the garden wall, talked with me from fall to fall. Mine the sand-rimmed pickerel pond, mine the walnut slopes beyond, mine on bending orchard trees, apples of Hesperides. Still, as my horizon grew, larger grew my riches too. All the world I saw or knew seemed a complex Chinese toy fashioned for a barefoot boy. Cheerily then, my little man, live and laugh as boyhood can. How about the story about Running Owl the Hunter? A little boy who wanted to become a hunter. Many, many years ago, a little boy named Running Owl lived with his father and his mother in a village on the western plains of this land. His father and the other men hunted deer and buffalo and eagles and jackrabbits and anything else they could eat, but what they lived on mostly was buffalo. After a buffalo hunt, when everyone had eaten all they could, the women cut up the rest of the meat and hung it out to dry. They made buffalo robes from the hide, they made bowstrings from the tendons, they made teepee coverings from the skin. In short, they used every bit of the animal for something. And when they were through, they put the skull of the animal on the hill facing east, as thanks to the buffalo for all he had given them. More than anything else, Running Owl wanted to go on a buffalo hunt. He asked his father, but his father said, "You are not old enough. You might get hurt." "How could I get hurt?" said Running Owl. "I can ride a horse." "You might fall off and get stepped on," his father replied. If you got stepped on by a couple of hundred buffalo, that can hurt." "Poof," said Running Owl, but not so loudly that his father could hear. "We shall see who is too young and who isn't." The next time the men went on a buffalo hunt, Running Owl decided to do some hunting on his own. He had his bow and his arrows and set off, not knowing just what he was looking for, but ready for anything. He had a hard time finding something to hunt. He saw a rattlesnake, but it buzzed at him and coiled to strike. Its fangs looked as big as arrows. "I won't hunt a rattler today," he thought. "Some other time, perhaps." He saw a prairie dog, but it popped into its burrow before he could come close enough to shoot. He heard a herd of antelope, but they ran away in great leaps, and before he could fit an arrow to his bow, they were gone. Next he saw a jackrabbit. He crept as close as he could, then stood up and let loose an arrow. The rabbit, which had been eating on some bushes, heard the whist as the arrow flew past, and he looked around. "Are you shooting at me?" he said. "Yes," said Running Owl, reaching for another arrow. "Oh, don't be silly," said the rabbit. "You'll never hit me in a million years." Oh, no, Running Owl aimed carefully and shot again. And this time the rabbit leaped straight in the air, so that the arrow went under him. In a rage, Running Owl shot all his arrows, but the rabbit just kept leaping about, and none of them hit. "I'll try something easier," the rabbit said, going back to his eating. "Something big and slow like a cow." Running Owl picked up what arrows he could find and stamped off in search of something else to hunt. He didn't answer the "good luck" the rabbit called out as he left. Then he remembered how his father had once caught an eagle. "That is what I need," he thought, "an eagle feather to go in my hair. Then I will look more like a hunter, and maybe that will help." He dug a hole in the ground as he had seen his father do, and covered most of it with sticks and bushes. Next he took a piece of dry meat, which he had brought for his lunch, and put it on top of the sticks. Then he slid into the hole, lying on his back, and pulled some more sticks and bushes over him until he was all covered. He could see the sky, and he could reach through the sticks, but nothing could see him. Then he waited for an eagle to come for the meat. It grew hot in his hole, but still he waited. Bits of dirt fell on him, but he didn't move. He just waited, waited. Then he heard quiet footsteps nearby. He listened, and in a moment he saw the face of Coyote sniffing at the meat. "Get away from that meat!" Running Owl shouted, and the coyote jumped 5 feet in the air. "Who said that?" the coyote asked. "I did," Running Owl replied. "That's bait to catch an eagle." The coyote peered at the pile of sticks and bushes where Running Owl was hiding. "Are you a little boy?" he asked. "Yes," said Running Owl. "Did you think I was a fish?" "You're a pretty small little boy," the coyote observed. "Suppose I just take the meat and run off?" "I'll have the whole village after you," said Running Owl, his face full of dirt. "I'll get my father and all the buffalo hunters, and they'll catch you and hang your skin on a teepee." The coyote thought about this for a moment. "You people drive me crazy," he said, and turned and went away. Running Owl waited some more, and then he heard a faint rustling sound in the air. It went whoosh, 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 flap, 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 and suddenly an eagle landed on the sticks above him. It folded its wings and began to peck at the meat. Running Owl took a deep breath and then shot his hands up through the sticks and grasped the eagle's legs as hard as he could. The eagle screeched and beat the air with its wings, and the sticks and bushes flew in all directions. As Running Owl was dragged from his hole and bumped along the ground, "Hey!" he shouted to the eagle, "hold still! I caught you!" "Not yet, you didn't," the eagle replied, beating its wings even faster. "We'll see who has caught whom." Running Owl tried to let go, but the eagle had his wrists in his claws. It bumped him faster and faster over the ground, raising a big cloud of dust, and then it raised him into the air, taking Running Owl along. "Let me go!" Running Owl cried. "It was just a joke. I wasn't going to hurt you." "Some joke," the eagle said. "We can all laugh about it later." Running Owl looked down and could see the teepees of his village. The people looked as small as ants. Far in the distance, almost hidden in dust, was a herd of buffalo which his father and the other men were hunting. "Where are you taking me?" Running Owl asked. "You'll see," the eagle replied. "This was your idea, remember?" "Not this part of it," said Running Owl. "I had something else in mind." "Hard cheese," said the eagle. "You take what you get." They came to a tall, rocky cliff. On a ledge in the cliff was a large nest made of sticks, and in the nest were 3 young eagles called eaglets. They stretched their necks and opened their beaks as the big eagle came in with Running Owl in its claws. "I get first bite," said one of the eaglets. Ralph had first bite last time." "Don't bite him yet, Marion," the big eagle said. "I want to hear what he has to say first." "I didn't mean any harm," Running Owl said. "I just wanted a feather for my hair." "You went to some trouble to get just one feather," the big eagle said. "Are you sure you weren't going to do something else?" "What could I do?" said Running Owl. "You're bigger than I am." One of the eaglets crept behind Running Owl and opened its beak. "Otto, get away from him," the big eagle said sharply. "I said don't touch him until we hear his story." Otto closed his beak and said nothing. "My father said I was too young to hunt," Running Owl said. "I thought it might give me luck if I had an eagle feather. That is all I was trying to do." The eagle looked at him. "You don't think very carefully, do you?" he said at last. "I thought I was careful," said Running Owl. "I mean, you don't think very far ahead," said the eagle. "You don't think what might happen next." "It doesn't look that way," Running Owl replied. "You'll learn." The eagle looked around the nest and found a loose feather. "Here," it said, as it gave the feather to Running Owl. "This will remind you of your first lesson. You can put it in your hair." "Thank you," Running Owl said. "That is really all I wanted." It was a long walk home. When he got there, his father and the others were back from the buffalo hunt. His father looked at the feather in Running Owl's hair. "Where did you get that?" he asked. "An eagle gave it to me," Running Owl replied. "What eagle?" said his father. "Well, it's a long story," said Running Owl as he got into his sleeping robe. "I'll tell you tomorrow." Before his father could ask him any more, he was asleep. By the shores of Gitchigumi, by the shining Big Sea water, stood the wigwam of Nokomis, daughter of the moon Nokomis. Dark behind it rose the forest, rose the black and gloomy pine trees, rose the firs with cones upon them. Bright before it beat the water, beat the clear and sunny water, beat the shining Big Sea water. There the wrinkled old Nokomis nursed the little Hiawatha, rocked him in his linden cradle, bedded soft in moss and rushes, safely bound with reindeer sinews, stilled his fretful wail by saying, "Hush, the naked bear will hear thee," lulled him into slumbers singing, "Yahweh, my little owlet, who is this that lights the wigwam? With his great eyes lights the wigwam. Yahweh, my little owlet." Many things Nokomis taught him, of the stars that shine in heaven, showed him Ishkudah the comet, Ishkudah with fiery tresses, showed the death dance of the spirits, warriors with their plumes and war clubs, flaring far away to northward in the frosty nights of winter, showed the broad white road in heaven, pathway of the ghosts, the shadows, running straight across the heavens, crowded with the ghosts, the shadows. At the door on summer evenings sat the little Hiawatha, heard the whispering of the pine trees, heard the lapping of the waters, sounds of music, words of wonder. "Minawawa," said the pine trees. "Mudwaw ashku," said the water. Saw the firefly Wawatesi flitting through the dusk of evening with the twinkle of its candle lighting up the brakes and bushes, and he sang the song of children, sang the song Nokomis taught him. "Wawatesi, little firefly, little flitting white fire insect, little dancing white fire creature, light me with your little candle. Ere upon my bed I lay me, ere at sleep I close my eyelids." Saw the moon rise from the water, rippling, rounding from the water. Saw the flecks and shadows on it. Whispered, "What is that, Nokomis?" And the good Nokomis answered, "Once a warrior, very angry, seized his grandmother and threw her up into the sky at midnight. Right against the moon he threw her. 'Tis her body that you see there." Saw the rainbow in the heaven, in the eastern sky the rainbow. Whispered, "What is that, Nokomis?" And the good Nokomis answered, "'Tis the heaven of flowers you see there, all the wild flowers of the forest, all the lilies of the prairie. When on earth they fade and perish, blossom in that heaven above us. When he heard the owls at midnight, hooting, laughing in the forest. "What is that?" he cried in terror. "What is that?" he said to Nokomis. And the good Nokomis answered, "'Tis but the owl and owlet, talking in their native language, talking, scolding at each other." Then the little Hiawatha learned of every bird its language, learned their names and all their secrets, how they built their nests in summer, where they hid themselves in winter, talked with them whene'er he met them, called them Hiawatha's chickens. Of all beasts he learned the language, learned their names and all their secrets, how the beavers built their lodges, where the squirrels hid their acorns, how the reindeer ran so swiftly, why the rabbit was so timid, talked with them whene'er he met them, called them Hiawatha's brothers.